The Battle of Aegospotami, the end of the Athenian navy. By 405 BCE, the Peloponnesian War had dragged on for more than 25 years, leaving Greece fractured, war-torn, and exhausted. Athens, once the unrivaled naval power of the Greek world, was weakened and running low on resources after the devastating Sicilian expedition and years of relentless conflict. Sparta, too, was strained, but it had found an unlikely ally in Persia, whose financial support allowed Sparta to build a fleet that could finally challenge Athenian supremacy at sea. The stage was set for a final confrontation, the Battle of Aegospotami, where the once mighty Athenian navy would meet its end. Part 1. The lead-up to Aegospotami. The situation in Athens was desperate. The losses suffered during the Sicilian expedition had crippled its navy, leaving the city struggling to maintain its control over the Aegean Sea. While Athens had managed to rebuild part of its fleet, the manpower shortage and dwindling funds made it difficult to sustain the war effort. Morale was low, and the people of Athens were growing weary of a war that seemed never-ending. The Spartans, led by the formidable general Lysander, saw an opportunity to exploit this vulnerability. With Persian gold backing his campaign, Lysander rebuilt the Spartan navy, training his sailors to the highest standards. His strategy was straightforward but effective. If he could destroy the Athenian navy, he would cut Athens off from its essential supply routes, forcing the city into submission. For Lysander, victory at sea meant victory in the war. In the autumn of 405 BCE, the Athenian fleet, commanded by Conon and Philocles, was stationed at Aegospotami, a narrow strait on the Hellespont, across from the Spartan-controlled city of Lampsacus. Lysander's fleet was nearby, and the two forces prepared for a confrontation. However, days passed without an engagement, as Lysander cunningly observed the Athenians, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Part 2. The Trap at Aegospotami. Lysander, a master of strategy and patience, understood the Athenian fleet's daily routine. Each day, the Athenians would sail out from Aegospotami in a show of force, hoping to provoke the Spartans into open battle. Yet each day, Lysander would hold back, keeping his fleet close to Lampsacus, well defended and ready. Frustrated by the lack of response, the Athenian commanders grew complacent, believing that the Spartans lacked the courage or capability to face them. As the days passed, the Athenians let their guard down. Each day, after making their show of force, they would return to shore at Aegospotami, where they would disembark and scatter along the beach to rest, gather food, and relax. Lysander saw his chance. On the fifth day, when he was certain that the Athenians were sufficiently distracted and unprepared, he issued the order to attack. The Spartan fleet swept across the Hellespont with speed and precision. The Athenians, caught off guard, scrambled to respond, but without their commanders and crews organized, they were quickly overwhelmed. Spartan soldiers boarded the Athenian ships, slaughtering or capturing the sailors who had not yet reached their vessels. In a matter of hours, the Athenian navy was obliterated. Only a few ships, commanded by Conon, managed to escape the slaughter and flee to safety. Part 3. The Aftermath of Aegospotami. The devastation at Aegospotami was total. The Athenians had lost their entire fleet, nearly 180 ships, in a single swift blow. Without its navy, Athens was cut off from the Black Sea grain routes, leaving the city vulnerable to starvation. Lysander wasted no time in capitalizing on his victory. He sailed down the coast, capturing or intimidating Athenian allies into submission, systematically dismantling the once mighty Delian League. One by one, the cities that had been under Athenian influence surrendered to Sparta, unwilling to face the wrath of Lysander's fleet. Lysander then blockaded Piraeus, Athens' crucial port, cutting off all remaining supply lines to the city. Inside the walls of Athens, despair took hold. The people, already weakened by years of war and hardship, faced starvation and isolation. With no navy to defend them and no allies to come to their aid, the Athenians were left with little choice but to negotiate. In the spring of 404 BCE, after enduring months of siege and starvation, Athens surrendered unconditionally. The terms were harsh. Athens was forced to dismantle its long walls, the iconic fortifications that had protected the city for generations. Its remaining ships were confiscated, and the Athenian Empire was dissolved, leaving the city stripped of its power and influence. Sparta, victorious, imposed a government of oligarchs loyal to Sparta, known as the 30 Tyrants, to rule over Athens. Part 4. The End of the Athenian Empire and the Lessons of Aegospotami. The Battle of Aegospotami marked the end of Athenian dominance and the fall of its empire. Once the most powerful city-state in Greece, Athens was now a shadow of its former self, brought low by years of war and the final crushing blow dealt by Lysander. The Peloponnesian War, which had begun as a struggle for supremacy, ended with Athens' humiliating defeat and Sparta's ascendancy. Yet, the victory came at a cost. The Greek world, now dominated by Sparta, was left weakened and divided, setting the stage for future conquests by foreign powers. The Battle of Aegospotami serves as a stark reminder of the dangers of overconfidence and complacency. The Athenians, once unmatched in naval warfare, had allowed their arrogance to cloud their judgment, believing that their enemies could not outwit them. Lysander's patience, discipline, and strategic foresight proved decisive, showing that in war, sometimes the greatest advantage lies in waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Part 5. A Lasting Legacy. The fall of the Athenian navy was a turning point in Greek history, but Athens' story did not end there. Though it had lost its empire, the spirit of Athens endured. The intellectual and cultural achievements of the city, in philosophy, drama, art, and science, continued to thrive, influencing generations to come. The philosophers Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle would go on to lay the foundations of Western thought, their teachings reaching far beyond the confines of the city walls. The tragedy of Aegospotami and the fall of Athens underscored the impermanence of military and political power. Yet, while Sparta's victory was complete on the battlefield, the ideals of Athens, democracy, intellectual freedom, and artistic expression, outlasted the empire itself. In time, Athens would regain its autonomy and continue as a center of learning, even as the Greek world moved toward a new era under Macedonian and later Roman rule. The Battle of Aegospotami remains a powerful example of how even the mightiest powers can fall when they allow hubris to replace vigilance, and how the legacy of a civilization can endure beyond its military or political achievements. The Athenians, defeated and humbled, would continue to inspire the world with their epilogue, the legacy of Aegospotami and the enduring spirit of Athens. The Battle of Aegospotami was not merely the end of Athenian naval power. It marked the close of an era for the Greek world. With Athens defeated and Sparta triumphant, the balance of power in Greece shifted, leaving deep scars that would resonate for generations. Yet, while Athenian supremacy on the seas was shattered, the cultural and intellectual spirit of Athens was far from extinguished. From this dark moment in Greek history emerged lessons that would shape the philosophies, political thought, and culture of the Western world. Part 1. The Cost of Victory for Sparta. For Sparta, the victory at Aegospotami and the subsequent fall of Athens represented the culmination of a long struggle for dominance. With Athens subdued and its empire dismantled, Sparta had finally achieved its goal of weakening its greatest rival. But victory brought with it new responsibilities and challenges. Sparta, a city-state built on austerity and military discipline, now found itself at the head of a vast and fractured Greek world. Tasked with governing cities that had once looked to Athens for leadership, Sparta quickly realized that maintaining control would require resources and administrative skills that it lacked. Furthermore, Sparta's alliance with Persia, which had provided the financial backing necessary to defeat Athens, came with a cost. In exchange for Persian support, Sparta had ceded influence over the Greek cities of Ionia to the Persian Empire, undermining the ideal of Greek autonomy that it had once claimed to protect. Many of Sparta's allies grew disillusioned, feeling that Sparta had betrayed its commitment to Greek independence. This resentment set the stage for future conflicts and weakened Sparta's hold on power. Part 2. Athens' Recovery and the Resilience of Democracy. Although Athens had been defeated and its empire dismantled, the city did not disappear into obscurity. Following the brutal rule of the 30 tyrants, an oligarchic government imposed by Sparta, the Athenians rallied to overthrow their oppressors and restore democracy. In 403 BCE, democracy was re-established in Athens, a testament to the resilience and tenacity of its people. Though it was no longer an imperial power, Athens reclaimed its status